Report. Tonight's question, what do you think of when you hear the words Arab, Middle East, Islam?
Oh, dogs are better than sheep.
In the past.
Have you ever considered joining a harem?
2 million of your people will die.
Because, sir, the truth is,
They're portrayed basically as subhumans.
I think it's one of the most racist movies.
Slurs demeaning Arabs in movies having nothing to do with the Middle East.
People are completely ignorant.
They're called terrorists, Gary, and they hate everything about you.
I was just a boy when the infidels came to my village in their Black Hawk helicopters.
So, what part of Islam do you hail from?
I was born in Cleveland.
Really? You know, we also have a Cleveland here in America, and it'd be just super if you didn't blow it up.
Hey guys, you are here until the job is done.
Great news, everybody! Democracy just kicked in!
By a series of terror attacks.
Again, the streets are flowing with blood.
Caricature.
Tonight, to help us answer these tough questions, we have two experts joining us live from the Middle East. Monica Grandy, a former CIA case officer in the Middle East.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me tonight.
And also joining us, a British diplomat stationed in Cairo, Ted Webb. How you doing, Ted? It's a pleasure to be here, Alex. Thank you both for joining us. Monica, I want to start with you. You've done a lot of research lately in terms of Arab representation in media. Could you please talk about your findings?
That's right, Alex. I'm really excited about this new book I have coming out. It's going to hit stores around August. I think that's what the publishers are telling me. But just to give you a little background on some of the research that I've been doing, you know, a lot of people think that this new surge of anti-Arab sentiment in the entertainment media is purely a result of the attacks on September 11th. And actually, if you go back and look at some movies and TV shows dating far before then, you can see still a lot of anti-Arab stereotypes all over the place. You have, you know, wealthy oil sheikhs, and you have these kind of lecherous men who are just surrounding themselves in harems. The difference that I see is post 9/11 we have one stereotype, and that is the conniving, dangerous terrorist. And I think that whereas before 9/11 you see a lot of these images as a result of kind of America's ignorance just about the Middle East and Arabs in general. And I know that Ted is going to touch a little later on Orientalism and kind of Edward Said's hypothesis on that. But what I want to talk about a little, which I touch a lot on in my book, is kind of the television industry post 9/11 and really capitalizing on this image of Arabs as just these bloodthirsty terrorists.
Contingency plan in place. If you ever needed to hide out, flee the country.
Will you pray with me? It's your soul that needs Allah's help, not mine.
Planning a nuclear attack.
Now you understand? You have to find out where the nukes are coming from and intercept them. You have to give me some sort of real intel, or you can get another UC.
Your world is never going to be safe now until you make peace with Islam on our terms.
I've been focusing most of my attention on 3 shows, Sleeper Cell on Showtime, and 24 on Fox, and Lost on ABC. Now, 24 and Sleeper Cell both deal predominantly with terrorism, and specifically America as a target of terrorism. And now 24 is a very interesting example. You have the character Jack Bauer, who America has absolutely fallen in love with, and he's going around and basically torturing people, which is, you know, internationally illegal, and setting this precedent that kind of makes it okay. You have Kiefer Sutherland taking home Emmys and Golden Globes every year for portraying this man who is violating the law and it's absolutely condoned. And I've also been looking at Lost, which deals with one of the protagonists, Saeed, who is supposedly a good guy, but we also find out he has a history of being a very brutal torturer during the Gulf War.
LaFleur, this is Jin here. Come in.
Whoa. Where'd you learn to do that? Come on. We better go. He called LaFleur.
You were right about me.
What?
I am a killer.
Back to you, Alex.
Great stuff, great stuff. I just want to throw it over to Ted now and hear his thoughts on the matter. One of the first individuals who originally did research on this topic was Edward Said, who I had the pleasure of doing research with a couple years ago. In his book, which was published in 1978 called Orientalism, Edward Said tries to describe why Americans and other members of Western society have these preconceived notions of people of the Middle East, even though we may not know anyone from there or even been there. More generally, Orientalism asks, how do we come to understand people and strangers who look different from us by the virtue of the color of their skin? Edward Said, in his book Orientalism, argues that the way the West, Europe, and the US looks at countries and peoples of the Middle East is through a lens that distorts the actual reality of the people who live there. He calls this lens through which we view that part of the world as Orientalism. He explains that Orientalism is a framework that Westerners used to understand the unfamiliar and the strange, and to make the people of the Middle East appear different and threatening. At the heart of this new American Orientalism is the threatening and demonizing figure of the Islamic terrorist, that is emphasized by Hollywood. I recently actually conducted an interview with Edward Said on his theories of Orientalism here in Cairo a few weeks ago, and if you'd like, we can roll some clips on that. Can we roll some clips on that? Excellent.
I mean, there's never been an American occupation of the Near East. So I would say the difference between British and French Orientalism on the one hand, and the American experience of the Orient on the other, is that the American one is much more indirect. It's much more based on abstractions. The situation in the popular media is basically that Muslims are really two things. One, they're villains of one sort, villains and fanatics.
I will dispatch the American people to the hell they deserve.
And B, many films end up with huge numbers of bodies, Muslim bodies, strewn all over the place, the result of Arnold Schwarzenegger or Demi Moore, Chuck Norris. Lots of films about guerrillas going in to kill Muslim terrorists. So the idea of Islam is something that to be stamped out.
Very interesting, Ted. However, I want to ask you, does Edward Said believe that terrorism exists? That's an excellent question. Edward Said definitely recognizes that terrorism exists as a result of the political situation that is occurring in many Middle Eastern countries. However, he also argues that there's a lot that is misunderstood by the many people of the West. It's an excellent point. The results of the media focusing on one negative aspect alone results in the entire population of the Arab world being associated in a very paranoid way. So when we think of people who come from that particular part of the world, we immediately think fanatic, extreme, radical, and violent. Said argues that understanding a vast and complex region like the Middle East in this narrow way takes away the humanity and diversity of millions of ordinary people living there. Very interesting, Ted. Unfortunately, we're just out of time. I wanted to thank both of you for coming on tonight. It's been very enlightening. My pleasure. It's been great talking with you. This was the Alex Report.